Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something that should always be the cornerstone of your diet, irrespective of which dietary approach you take. And I really don't care. I don't care what dietary approach that you use, but when you start excluding or you don't build these two things as the primary foundation of your diet, don't complain when you don't gain muscle. Don't complain when you don't gain strength. Don't complain when you do not recover from your training. Now, I could make the case that these are requirements for general health for anyone, but I don't care about the general population. I don't. The general population doesn't care about its health, or they'd be lifters and athletes, so I don't give a crap about them. They don't. They don't care about themselves, so we shouldn't either. So for lifters, for athletes, and every real athlete these days does lift, very, very few exceptions. In fact, those exceptions are so rare that they get made a big deal out of, right? It gets noted that they don't lift because they're, again, outliers. And I'm talking even for soccer, tennis, anything these days. Marathon runners, the best endurance athletes lift for usually. So let's talk about those two things, and that's animal source proteins and vegetables. Now, I do get that some people with IBS and stuff struggle with certain vegetables. But again, you guys have a disease that requires some specialty to it. So it's not really what we're talking about. But even then, I would argue they still need to find a way to eat certain fruits and stuff. Like they need to find a way. My opinion. But let's come over and let's talk about these things. And it's animal source protein. And the reason for that is the bioavailability. We know based upon most of the data that we have that body composition, muscle, and everything else requires large amounts of protein. Right? It requires large amounts of protein. But it's not just the muscle gains. Because honestly, the protein requirements to maximize muscle gains aren't super high. I eat a lot more than that. Right? I eat a lot more than the requirements to gain muscle. I look at things like tendon health, tendon recovery. I'm a master's lifter. I'm past age 45. I'm in my late 40s winning. Okay. I care a whole lot about things like my tendon health, joint health, but tendons, it's a big deal. Protein intake massively affects tendon health. Actually, so do antioxidants, which we'll get to that with the vegetables and stuff too. And here's your issue. Non-animal source proteins, we don't absorb them fully. It's not that they're incomplete. Everyone makes that argument, say, well, they're incomplete proteins, and then the vegans and other people own you and make you look stupid because you made an ignorant statement, when in reality, they're not incomplete. Most plant proteins, with some exceptions, I would say over half of plant proteins out there are complete proteins. That's not the problem. It's not the problem. It's the low bioavailability. You absorb less of the amino acids from it. Okay, that's our problem. So if you're trying to eat enough protein to recover from training, to maximize muscle growth, to improve body composition, let's come over to that too. We know protein overfeeding improves body composition. That's the big thing, right? The higher your protein intake is, even excessive amounts of protein tends to improve body fat quite a bit. In other words, people who protein overfeed don't gain body fat from it. And that's a whole other topic as far as studies go. But if you're trying to maximize body composition, try to maximize recovery, protein overfeeding beyond those amounts matters. All right, so if you're trying to use plant proteins, they're going to be inferior, maybe count them as 50%. So we start getting to the point to where, again, if you're not eating large amounts of animal source proteins, your protein intake might have to be astronomical to maximize these things, to truly maximize these things like tendon health and tendon recovery and everything. And this is problematic. Plus, we have the fact that all your animal source proteins also come with B12. A lot of them are heavy in things like magnesium and other stuff. Now, granted, we can get all those things from plants other than the B12. B12 is very important for energy. It's actually important for cognition. The lack of B12 is one reason you see so much mental illness in vegans, because it causes irreversible damage to their brain. Something a lot of people don't want to talk about with that type of diet. There's a reason they're so crazy. It's dietary deficiency. But, if you're eating large amounts of animal source protein, your B12 is usually pretty high. Now, when I say the protein, people assume that I'm saying, oh, well, that means that you want people to eat large amounts of fatty meat. That's not what I'm saying at all. You can find tons of protein sources that have almost no fat. So, again, making it all fit into your diet is fine. Because, but we could talk about the higher fat diets. We can talk about high carb, low fat, high carb, whatever approach you're using. The foundation here is still the same: animal source proteins. Notice I'm not saying this as promoting a specific diet. You can make this stuff work with all of them. And we come over to the plants, the vegetables. Now, if you're eating a higher carb diet, a lot of the vegetable stuff can be replaced largely with fruits, or maybe both. You're doing a lower carb type approach, you're going to want a lot of vegetables. All right, vegetables. Why vegetables? Well, the insoluble fiber, obviously, in things, which you don't necessarily always get from grains. The insoluble fiber, obviously, for gut health and bowel movements and all those things. That's definitely part of it. But a big part of that, too, has to do with those type of fibers and all of the phytonutrients and things. Those start to become important for things like gut health. Those things become important for recovery. Because a lot of people will say, well, if it's just the vitamins and minerals from the vegetables, I can just take a pill and replace that. No, you can't. No, you can't. Because you're missing these things mixed with the entire matrix of the food. You're missing the benefits of the insoluble fiber. And gut health is important. Like, we're learning more and more that gut health matters for everything. It matters for everything from recovery to your immune system to cancers. This is what we're finding in the research. All right, those insoluble fibers found in your plants help with that. All the phytonutrients and additional antioxidants beyond the obvious ones, like, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E. Those things all contribute. All right, the total antioxidant status of your diet matters. And what we find with most of the data out there, the more vegetables you eat, the better your longevity and health. So people are like, well, I try to do the bare minimum. No, you need to do more. Again, if we're trying to maximize our recovery, we're trying to maximize our performance, trying to maximize our health, it's not about eating the minimums, because there doesn't seem to be really much upper threshold for those things. That's the problem with a lot of the flexible dieting approach, by the way. Well, I can fill a bunch of my calories with Pop-Tarts or table sugar or deep fried dog turds. As long as I hit those minimums, there's no benefit to going over. Well, actually, there does seem to be for a lot of them, and particularly with things like the vegetables and fruits and things. Because we don't have RDAs for all these phytonutrients and other antioxidants and things in there. But they seem to have massive health benefits that are dose dependent. You could have filled that 500 calories of junk food or 1,000 calories of junk food with these foods and been healthier for it. And I get it. Some of my hard gainers, you guys have to eat some junk to gain weight. But this is to create a calorie surplus. Right? This is trying to create a calorie surplus, because you could do it with whole foods too. Just a lot of them choose not to because they don't want to stand around eating calorie dense whole foods. They get sick of peanut butter and stuff eventually. But the more of these that we eat, the better. So really the foundation of your diet, that's your base. Really your diet should be built around animal proteins and vegetables, and then you fill remaining calories based upon the diet style that you're doing. Whether that's different carbs or fat or whatever approach you're utilizing, whichever diet you are utilizing, dietary approach. Or you might not have any approach. You may just be doing those things and counting calories. Perfectly fine. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.